En primer lugar,
first of all, dear Ursula, I'd like to thank you for organising this business forum, which is taking place in Brussels, in the capital of Europe, and also to thank you for this commitment you've shown, which is so firm, for the success of this European EU-CELAC roundtable and summit with the 45 billion euros. So thank you very much, Ursula. You have always been so sound in external affairs and based on all our principles. Thank you, President Lula, for being here today in the inauguration. I believe that in Brazil, the leadership of Brazil in this area is essential in order for it to achieve success in today's summit, today and tomorrow. And I'm very aware of this, the extraordinary efforts you're making to be here today in Brussels. And also, congratulations to the presidents of the CAF and the IDB for the excellent work they've done. We started talking about this business forum and this summit in May of last year, and today we're beginning to see the results of this extraordinary effort which we have all been making. So, dear representatives of European and Latin American companies and international financial institutions, the Spanish presidency of the EU has taken on a very very ambitious objective, which is to strengthen external relations between the EU and Latin America and the Caribbean. These are regions which, as Lula and the President of the Commission was saying, we have solid historical links with common values and interests. We have a shared vision of how to deal with the global challenges of humanity, and therefore we want to relaunch our trade and investment links. We want to strengthen the resilience of our economies. And with this objective, we are celebrating this summit, and I would like to mention some of the most important aspects of these. First of all, trade. Because the European Union and CELAC have balanced trade links, which is different from what we have with other parts of the world. EU-LAC have balanced links, which have grown enormously in the last few years, and now, currently, 300,000 million euros per year. And I think that our economies are complementary. Latin America and the Caribbean possess energy, abundant raw materials, sun, fertile soil, water, and 40% of biodiversity, 33% of water fresh water in Latin America is present in Latin America, and therefore, President Lula, it's marvellous to hear you talk about the Amazon as you do. It's also marvellous to know that your government is going to protect this public good, such a global of global importance. What can Europe bring to the table? Well, not only capital, technology, know-how to Latin America and the Caribbean, which they need in order to launch their economic development even more intensely. In order to take advantage of the complementarity of our two regions, I think it's important that both regions deepen our trade relations and our economic integration. Today, I can say that the ratification of the agreements with Chile and Mexico is very close. And this has a great deal to do with the leadership of the European Commission, and therefore we really believe that this will happen during this Spanish presidency of 6 months. And as regards the relationship between EU and Mercosur, after more than 20 years of negotiations, we believe that we now have a window of opportunity, dear President, to ratify it in this second half of 2023. And, of course, Spain will always be side by side with those who want to close on this very important agreement, which is very important for both regions. Spanish government and the European Commission are working intensively to achieve an agreement on those environmental climate aspects which are still outstanding, so important, bearing in mind the sovereignty also of the countries of Mercosur. But we're also thinking of what this might involve, because we're talking about 94% of GDP of Latin America and Caribbean would be in the framework of free trade agreements with the EU. generating more jobs and more wealth, shared by both sides. As regards trade, secondly, I'd simply like to say that a few comments on the global gateway investment agenda. We know that Europe has increased its investment by 20% on last year, but Latin America and the Caribbean have also become an important investor into Europe. And here, there's a community, a business community, which represents these interests, represents the Latin American and Caribbean business community. $40,000 million per year in the last decade via the multilatinas. And Spain is obviously the first destination in Europe of this investment, but we want to expand the investment of Latin American and Caribbean in the rest of Europe. We believe that strengthening our economic relations demands a greater effort, greater investment from the European Union. And we agree this with the President of the European Commission. This is very important for the private sector. And here, the global gateway of the EU is going to play a very important role. And President von der Leyen referred to this. This is the agenda of strategic projects, concrete projects. We're not talking about abstract matters. These are concrete matters. And we'll look at some of these in a moment, accompanied by technical assistance, know-how, skills, and something very important, which is harmonisation of the regulatory framework. And Spain is committed to this agenda. Therefore, we have taken a step forward with the mobilisation of 240 billion euros in the coming months. And Spain and the other members of the EU will contribute, will play their part. And I very much welcome that we've achieved such a high figure as just been announced by the Commission. Over and above this effort, a key role will be played by the multilateral banks, the development banks, which are here present for the financing of these projects. And thirdly, I will conclude with this. We have to mobilise the private sector, the European businesses, which are present here today. Thank you very much for coming, are global leaders in many sectors. And they can bring to the region the capital, the technology, the know-how, the skills necessary for diversification of exports with the creation of jobs in the value chain on both sides of the Atlantic. And this with the greatest commitment and respect, as the President Lula said, of social standards, labour standards and environmental requirements. I will conclude by saying that EU and CELAC are now in a situation which I would describe as hopeful, and it can be improved. It can meet our necessities and interests in areas of critical raw materials, digitalisation, renewable energies, the reindustrialisation and social and economic cohesion of our territories. And therefore I would encourage the companies here present to join this agenda, to support it. It's going to strengthen our economies. It's going to improve the welfare of our citizens, and it's going to create greater interdependence between two continents, two regions of the world which share values, interests, and also a multilateral vision of how to resolve the global challenges which we are now facing. I think that we can all win from a closer relationship, and that's what we're trying today, after 8 years, to try to relaunch this close links and to strengthen the links between both continents. I don't know any better way of beginning the week. Thank you very much.